Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are getting ready to get started here. We have a good conversation about intranets, always a lively discussion. So, can't wait to get into it with you all. We're going to give everyone a minute or so just to connect, but I see the chat is already lively. So, love to see everyone introducing themselves here. And yes, just excited to hear from our customers and our partners at NASDAQ and Sheppard Pratt. And we'll get going pretty quickly. This is great. I see more people logging in. We are giving everyone just a few more seconds to get in and get comfortable before we kick off this webinar where we're going to talk about intranet and the insights. And we have some great stories from NASDAQ and Sheppard Pratt. So very excited to get in and start speaking with them. We'll give everyone just maybe a few more seconds, and then we're going to go ahead and kick it off with introductions. Let's see. Yeah, I see people introducing themselves in chat. I love seeing where everyone is from. Looks like we're all on top of it, getting back from a long weekend, acclimating to this week after a long weekend. This is great. Okay, I think we have a good amount of attendees. I know people will roll in. So let's go ahead and get started. This is Expert Insights, your intranet's role in delivering amazing employee experiences. And I'm telling you, we have some good, amazing examples today from NASDAQ and Sheppard Pratt. So let's go ahead and introduce our speakers. And Will, I see you popped up. We'll start with you. Tell us about yourself and about NASDAQ.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyla. It's great to be here today. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Briganti. I run internal communications at NASDAQ. I'm based in our Atlanta office. Many of you in the audience may be familiar with the NASDAQ stock market, which is probably one of the more famous offerings that our company has. It's what we've been known for over 50 years. But within the last probably 15 to 20 years, NASDAQ has been on a journey to transform itself into a financial technology provider, really not just to the capital markets, but to the entire financial system. So right now we're just shy of about 10,000 employees globally. We have locations in about 40 different countries. And so as the head of internal communications, we're always trying to focus on delivering company messages to all of our employees around the world. So it's great to be here. I've been with NASDAQ about 11 years and have been in the communications industry about 19. So very happy to be here, and thanks very much for having me.
That's great. Yeah, it's good to have you here. And Tamara, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about Sheppard Pratt.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. My name is Tamara Chumley. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic and Operational Communications here at Sheppard Pratt. I oversee public relations, media relations, internal communications, crisis communications, a lot of the communications front. So Sheppard Pratt is the largest private nonprofit provider of mental health, substance use, developmental disability, special education, and social services in the country. We have a wide comprehensive continuum of care from both hospital and community-based resources to special education schools, and really trying to meet kind of people where they are in the community and their mental health journey and beyond. We have about 5,000 employees, mostly within the Maryland kind of Mid-Atlantic region, though we do have now a new division within Sheppard Pratt called Sheppard Pratt Solutions, where we are providing consulting and management services with other hospitals and health systems across the country. So we do now have employees that are spread out a little bit more than the more centralized Maryland region. But we are a organization that is 5,000 strong and really looking to continue to enhance our internal communications as we support those employees.
That sounds great. Thank you also for being here. And Will and Tamara and I were all talking about how great it is that we come from such different backgrounds and have different perspectives, different workforces and organizations. So we're going to cover a wide spectrum as we talk about intranets today. I'm Kyla Turner. I am Senior Strategy Advisor in the Solutions Consulting Group at Firstup. So I've been with Firstup for about 3.5 years. And my role as an advisor is actually with a background in communication. So same thing, I have a corporate communication background for about 20 years. I have been on the side of standing up an intranet and also an intelligent communications platform. And now I am on the side of Firstup. So I get to talk with all of you and understand your ecosystems and your challenges and the ways that you're trying to reach your employees. So this is going to be a fun conversation. Let's go ahead and talk about intranets. I'm going to share with you a few slides that we have found. This is very interesting recent studies that we have picked up. And I don't think this first one is any secret that it is harder than ever to reach and engage your employees. There are hundreds of apps, there are hundreds of systems, and so much information that employees are exposed to just at your organization alone. So of course, it takes a lot for us to have that content strategy, have that reach and engage strategy to engage our employees, because for all of that technology and all of the information they have access to, as we all know, attention spans are shrinking. So we do a great job, we get their attention, and then how do we keep it, especially when there's less now than there was? And if you're a seasoned communicator as I am, it's crazy to see back in 2004 how much more attention we had. Of course, that was before really social media caught hold. But what I think is interesting on the right side of this slide is every 10 years, that attention span number seems to cut in half. So I can't imagine 10 years from now, hopefully this is the shortest we'll see, and we'll bring it back with all of that content that we're creating. I had to put this one in here because Gallagher did a recent study on intranets specifically. And this is something that I see across all of our customers at Firstup. When we're talking, we always say, usage-wise, the intranet is a busy place. Your intranet has a lot of traffic. People are accessing it. It is second only to email in most cases in most organizations. But if you dig deeper, what we're also finding is that even though it's the second highest used, people are not always happy with it. And if you can dig into the analytics, you'll see people sometimes have trouble searching or navigating, finding that information, or they're clicking different pages and they're not finding the information that they need to do their jobs. And that's why even among surveys, sometimes people dig in with surveys and say, what are your feelings toward finding what you need on the intranet? And we're seeing that there's a lot of friction there. So effectiveness-wise, it is the second lowest comms channel that we're seeing. So there lies in our challenge. I think it is a daily challenge that as communicators, we're looking at our comms ecosystem and we're saying, how can we make the intranet better? And how can we make our entire strategy across our comms channels better? So that's what we're going to look at today. I think we always have to look at this and say, with this kind of information and knowing what we know about our intranets, does that mean they're dying off? Does that mean they're dead? Does that mean that they should be dead? No, I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't think so. I think we ask ourselves this question. We've asked, is email dead? Should it be? Tamara, I know you're external comms. Some of us are here. Is the press release dead? Should it be? I think in all these cases, intranet, press release, email, they're not dead. I just think that in today's age, they can't stand alone. You have to have that broader strategy and those layers of technology, that comms ecosystem that I mentioned, and of course, the comms strategy to go with it. So that's why I'm very excited to hear from Will and Tamara. We are almost there. Wanted to just set this up. Last piece here is, as we look at intranets, I think we've all come from a place where before, in the past, intranets were supposed to be our one-stop shop. I'm sure you've heard this from leaders. Where can we put all of the information in one place so our employees can just go to that place and find whatever it is that they need? I think it was a good goal and a good thought to have in the beginning, but the reality is that we find people come to this place, or sometimes they don't come to this place. It's hard to pull them in. And once they're there, are they having a good experience? Are they finding what they need? Are they connecting with the information and the people and the news and the announcements that everyone needs to do their job effectively? Studies have shown and experience have showed us not quite. And so that's why we're all making the switch to this more employee-centric intranet. Yes, maybe things exist in one place, but how can we reach out and have personalized, targeted messages based on role and location and where you are in your employee journey? Would that help us bring people in to help find what they need to find? So maybe now the intranet is not one place, but this whole system that makes everything feel a little more personal and a little more personalized. And that's where it's going. We see this on the consumer side. So taking a page from our marketing partners playbook, we all know what it's like to be a consumer. If you are looking for any goods and services, I will tell you, I am looking for a new sofa and I'm doing my research, and boom, immediately when you start researching, suddenly I have all these resources, things reaching out to me, companies I'd never heard of, options for sofas that I didn't know about, people sending me swatches of fabrics, dog friendly, whatever it is, things that I didn't know to even ask the question before. Now I'm being reached out to and pulled into a direction that I didn't realize I wanted to go, but it is helping me. I'm also getting things for, hey, if you're shopping for a sofa, maybe you need a rug, maybe you need lamps, maybe you need, and no, I do not need all of that right now, but I might. And so I'm saving those resources to say, okay, maybe next. That's what we can think about next. And so without knowing it, I'm pulling myself into a journey. This is something that marketers are doing very well. And I really think that this is where it's going for internal comms also. We're starting this with Firstup, pulling people into their employee journey and hitting them along those key decision points. So exciting things for the world ahead. And I think all of you are probably thinking, where are we now? And how can we use this emerging technology, the intelligent delivery pieces, the AI, and all of the things to get us to this point now? And I think this is what's going to make it a good conversation. Will and Tamara are going to talk about where they started and the approach they take, and we will open it up for questions at the end. But to make that transition, what I would love to do is hear from you. I have talked now for several minutes. Quick pulse poll. So if you all want to jump in, I have a couple of questions for you. Love to see where you are on your internet journey and what you're feeling, maybe why you joined us today. So quickly, how effective is your intranet at reaching and engaging your employees? We've given you a couple of different options there. Go ahead and click on that. Let's see. I am getting some reports of how many have submitted. I'll let it go for a while. You have some questions, and we've given you some interesting choices here, either very effective or somewhat effective. And then on the other end of the spectrum, either somewhat ineffective or very ineffective. Talking about your intranet, hopefully we don't have too many of the letter D answer. I'm thinking all intranets are at least somewhat effective. You are putting that information in one place for your employees, and now we have to think about how are we reaching them? How are we engaging them? How are we getting them to adopt? So let's see. All right. This is actually, well, this is a little different from what I thought. I was hoping that we'd have more in the very effective category and less in the very ineffective. But I do like that the majority here is 50%, almost 51% of you think your intranet is somewhat effective. And I would agree. I've seen a lot of our customers and people that we work with, and we dig into their ecosystems. And I could say, you know, there is something here that's driving traffic. It is doing well, but there's always room to make it better and more personalized and more targeted and really bring people in. Okay, next question. Next and last. What would your employees say would be the #1 reason that your intranet could be challenging to them? Do they think there is unclear navigation? Is it difficult to find things? Do you have some outdated information in there that is causing some noise? Is there information that they don't feel is personalized or targeted to what they're doing and their role in the company? And that last one is no easy way to access what they need. Do they run into restrictions in getting what they need? I'm going to give you all a little bit of time on this one. I think that the way this is set up, you can only choose one. So prioritize. I would love to see what your employees are telling you and what you feel could be the biggest barrier to them successfully accessing your intranet. All right, we have about half of the attendees who have responded, so let's see what those results look like. All right, interesting. Well, I love this. First of all, I'm going to throw out outdated information. We're all communications professionals. And I love hearing that, yeah, there might be a little bit of outdated, but we're all going through, we're inventorying, we are cleaning out and updating. I love to see this as someone who really looks at spinning up new ways of communicating. I think everyone always asks, how do we migrate that information from one system to the other? And that's an excellent time to start talking about cleaning out the closets. And instead of migrating, really handpicking what is the most effective information that we can pull into a new platform and then connect to a repository. Looks like unclear navigation might be the biggest challenge that we're seeing here. And yes, that does happen when you have a lot of systems. So we are talking to two experts today who are going to tell us how they approach these challenges and more. So Tamara, I'm going to ask you the first question. We're going to bring in our speakers. So this is Tamara with Sheppard Pratt. And Tamara, you needed an effective way to reach your frontline employees who weren't checking their email. And this was during COVID. They needed that information, and you also knew you needed a long-term solution. So what was your strategy in launching a new experience, and how did you successfully reach everyone?
Sure. So for a little context and background, if anybody else was in the camp of very ineffective, that was me. All of those 4 challenges, if I could have, selected all of those, also us. When I arrived at Sheppard Pratt in 2018, we were a very decentralized organization. So we were the sum of many parts. Sheppard Pratt had acquired a number of organizations over the years, and each one of them, I will not call a single one of them an intranet, but each one of them had their own something. So a place where employees would go to find something. Again, it was outdated information. It wasn't easily accessible, nothing that you could really navigate. So we did have some challenges, even amongst what we had. There wasn't one system for everybody. And then there was also all of those challenges innate with each of them. So none of those were systems that we actually wanted to continue using. And Outlook really was the primary way we would talk to people, was through email. But we are an organization that is a lot of deskless people. So we have folks that work within hospitals 24/7, so times of day, and when we try to communicate and how often people have access to information, certainly varies by their role, by their location and such. So when COVID hit, we realized that we needed to figure out something fast. And it really was about making sure we had the resources available so that as information was changing so rapidly and such critical information, we wanted to ensure those communications that we needed for our various parts of our health system and our employees, and for our employees to be able to provide sometimes that information to our families or our patients or our clients, was all there living in one place for them to have access to. So it really was about trying to find a solution that would meet the needs and really start as a communication platform. And I will tell you, and we can talk about this a little bit more as we go on, but we are kind of in an iterative phase right now. And, we needed a solution in 2020, but the solution that we started in 2020, we realize isn't the solution we need now in 2024. So we are looking to continue to evolve that solution and, again, continue to meet our employees where they are, the information and resources that they're looking for. So I think that's also part of this. So this is an evolution, and sometimes you'll create or start something, but it isn't necessarily where you're going to end up. And you have to be open to hearing, again, what the organization truly needs as far as thinking about that information, those resources, and develop that solution and that strategy to meet those needs.
I love hearing that. I think that you really highlighted something that's been on my mind, is that so many people came for a new solution. during COVID, which has now been 4 years ago. And you're right, especially with AI and especially with this targeting and this intelligent delivery and everything that you can do now, it is already different. 4 years later, you are looking to expand. So can you tell us kind of what is on the horizon? What are you thinking? Are you thinking about journeys? Are you thinking, what are you trying to do for your employees going forward?
Yeah, so a lot of it is thinking about kind of targeting and how we, reach those different people. Since we originally launched, we have now one HRIS system. So we didn't have, again, one consolidated data source. So now we're hopefully having much better data that we can target people in those roles and that information. Again, we had more of a communications platform. So we do use Firstup, and it was more of about a communication tool at the time when we launched. And now we are thinking about it again as this more holistic solution where we're going to have that information and resource where it can live, where we can have these hubs from a department standpoint, where actually we never really had that true document repository either that our entire workforce could access. So now we're building the kind of that SharePoint backend. We probably worked backwards from most people. We fully recognize that. And we're creating the back end after we'd already kind of stood up the front facing piece. But that's a lot of work that we're doing now is to, again, kind of create that one-stop shop where that search is going to be critical. So to that point, easy navigation where people can come in either from the SharePoint or come in from ours is called Sheppard Pratt Pulse, but our front end solution, and find that policy, find that procedure, find that information specific to their role or their location, find that parking information, whatever it is. So we're really working on kind of standing up again that solution that's going to meet the needs of our employees and provide them all of those information and resources versus just more of that communication channel, which is what we had originally launched with.
That's great. So that need for a comms channel really drove some of the investment of time that you're also putting into kind of building out your other systems so that you have more robust data. I love
Absolutely.
hearing that. Yes. Okay, so for Will, we're going to bring in Will from NASDAQ. You launched your intranet in 2021, and your situation was a little bit different. You were facing massive growth. So what was your strategy in launching a new experience? How did you reach everyone?
Yeah, thanks, Kyla. Hey, everybody. Yeah, so we onboarded we're using Firstup, and we onboarded Firstup in 2021 and went live in January of 2022. And it was really an upgrade from a legacy in-house built system. So when I arrived at NASDAQ as part of the broader corporate communications team in 2013, we had an in-house system called QNet, which I would imagine was probably more of like just a document repository site. It served its purpose, right? But it wasn't, I would say, used as a strategic source. So I was in product communications when I joined the company. And, I think our intranet was really something like, well, that's what the internal comms team will work on. I'm over here sort of doing my siloed kind of product comms. And so from even a strategic purpose, it wasn't really seen as like a full communication cycle, kind of what you just mentioned in the introduction. And so I think there were a lot of reasons why we upgraded, but we knew that we needed, with the growth that we were experiencing as a company through acquisition, particularly during the pandemic, we needed to modernize our employee intranet. We needed to have a more interactive site. I would categorize QNet as a little bit more of a one-way. Again, more of that, it's something where you can find something versus kind of really being a resource for employees. So after doing 2 major acquisitions since 2020, we're now, as I mentioned at the top, almost 10,000 employees globally. So this evolution to Firstup was really kind of that first step in modernizing our employee communications. Another thing at NASDAQ is that all of our employees worldwide have 2 devices issued to them, a laptop and a mobile device. So with these devices, we needed to make sure that we were not just meeting our employees when they were at their desks, but when they were on the go. So given that all of our employees had a mobile phone, the mobile app feature that Firstup wasn't able to provide us with our intranet was an incredible resource for us. As a fully wired organization, having an employee intranet mobile app is a great feature. And so that was also part of our journey as well. And that's been really exciting to kind of get more of our employees engaging with our intranet, which we call Insider, not just on desktop when they're at work, but when they're on the go on their mobile device. So those were really the kind of like the driving forces of our evolution. And I think we've been we've been successful in getting everything up to speed, but we're constantly learning and constantly evolving ways that we can continue to refresh that content with all of the new features. So now that we have this really dynamic and engaging site, our task now is to ensure that we're bringing the best information, the most timely information to our employees. So we're really treating it almost as like a newsroom site, and deploying more of that sort of journalist newsroom style approach with our team to ensure that we've got a good mix of both what we call people-related stories, so HR, benefits, policies, that kind of thing, as well as information about what's going on in the company. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's a great content strategy. I think you can't go wrong with that journalistic approach. And I think it's interesting, especially because talking about the mobile app is you have such a different perspective than Tamara. Tamara's trying to reach frontline employees who aren't in front of a desk, who aren't connected. You are reaching the most connected workforce. So I'm curious, what does your adoption look like for the mobile app for people who are already connected? Yes, they're on the go, but they're pretty well connected with the information that they need. Do they appreciate the mobile app, and does that connect them more to that more journalistic approach for what they need to know in real time?
It's a great question. I would say I would answer yes, but I would give ourselves also like a C+, B-. We have a lot of work ahead to continue to grow mobile adoption. So there are a couple of reasons. Our workforce was probably already about 6,000 to 7,000 people when we launched our new intranet via Firstup. So training and teaching all of our existing employees that there was a mobile app option continues to be part of our journey. But when we've been onboarding new employees, whether it's through acquisition or just new joiners to the company, it's part of the onboarding process to ensure that they know and can locate the app and use it. So what we're also doing to continue to drive mobile adoption is deploy the features in the app that are enabled on the phone, push notifications, alerts, that kind of thing. We try to do those judiciously so that we're not abusing it, I think, a little bit, to ensure that it's not becoming something that would deteriorate mobile use. But I would definitely mention that even though we've got almost all of our employees with a mobile phone, mobile adoption is still on our journey as something that we need to continue to improve. So it's just more incumbent on us to make sure that we're bringing those mobile first stories, enabling our employees to kind of post their own content using their phones. So we're doing a lot of those educational campaigns as best as we can.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's something we see no matter what. It is constant and continuous promotion for your campaigns and for your information, and also for your channels.
Yeah.
Well, for both of you, moving on to, I know that the data is very important, and it really helps us make those strategic decisions. So either of you can jump in. How are you using the data insights from Firstup or from all of your different sources to determine what needs to be done?
I'll jump in first. So for us, there was a feature that was added to Firstup after we had originally launched, and there's quick links now. And as I mentioned, for our organization, we didn't have one place for a lot of our systems. So we use that opportunity to put links to those systems and kind of that top navigation there. And we've kind of had an assumption about which ones we thought were going to be, the most useful or the most, the ones that people would most actively use. But the nice thing was we actually had data then to support which ones really were being used. And we were able to make some changes to that. We put the ones that were most frequently used on like the top line with the ones that were less used, on the secondary line. So that was one way to help us determine which of the systems really most people were looking for and then actively engaging in. And another way we just is from a content standpoint as well, and truly seeing what our employees, most engaged with, and then we're trying to develop our content strategy based on that. And we found that, our employees were actually really hungry to learn more about each other and what they do. And we had started just kind of sharing about some stories with people who are related within our organization, so family type stories, and we created a family affair feature out of it. And we highlight on a weekly basis employees who are mother, son, husband, wife, cousins, or something across. And it's some of the most engaged content. And it was just, again, out of on a whim, we did a story or two, and then we saw such great engagement. And from that data, created a whole feature series kind of around that, because that was something people were really gravitating towards and hearing about why did they join the organization? What drives them? What do they do each day at work? So again, our data is definitely driving that content strategy, and then also timing of that content strategy as well. Again, we had some assumptions because we're a 24/7 organization with parts of our organization working 24/7, 365 days a year. We thought everybody would probably look at content at all of those times, and in fact, it still is kind of a more Monday through Friday driven content strategy. And, again, we really have important information or things we really want to feature. We're still kind of keeping it within that time and just doing, some lighter things on the weekends because people are still around. But again, it's not content that people are actively seeking out on the weekend.
Excellent use. I love hearing how your data is pointing to it's the people stories that are really gathering a lot of attention, and then also that you're using it for timing. That's
Yes.
fantastic. Will, do you have anything that you can add from a data standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like Tamara, we are using the data insights to help drive our decision making. So first and foremost, we have a lot of content on our site, and there's a lot of policy information. So what we really do is we are using search terms to help drive some of our decision making on how our page is designed. So Tamara mentioned the quick links. We have also deployed that on our site as well. We call it our navigation bar. And so when we were looking to build that, when that became a new feature to us, we actually analyzed the top search queries that went into our intranet. And we did that so that we could identify what are our users coming to this site to find the most. And then from there, we used those search terms to help fill out what that quick link navigation bar looked like. So let's say we have 10 of those little tabs on our search bar, which I think is actually a lot. But we're about 12 months in, and so we're probably going to do another audit based on how many people are clicking these links. Does it still mirror the search term, kind of results that we're getting? So I think, using that data to kind of help build the site itself and to redesign the features and to highlight certain information has been very useful to us. So for example, the number one thing that our employees are using our intranet for is the employee directory. They need to contact their employees. Maybe they sort of come across a name and they're trying to find somebody in the organization who they need to contact about a product or about a sales pitch, something like that. They're using our intranet to find org charts and to find their contact information for their colleagues. So right away, we knew that we had to have a very sort of centralized area on the navigation bar for our employee directory. Another search term that people were looking for is how they can stay engaged through our employee networks. So we have a major, sort of spot in the navigation bar for our employee network homepage to make sure that people understand how they can connect with other colleagues and various affinity groups. So I would say that that's been a very useful tool for us. And in addition, I think Tamara mentioned this too, but I'll just highlight it. We're using a lot of the data to help drive and refresh the content on our site. We have a lot of topic pages. So I'm not sure if there's anybody in the audience that's using Firstup that also has this challenge. But what's great about having topic pages is that you can create them. You can create as many as you want, right? But what happens is that, are we spreading ourselves too thin? So we're starting to take a look on a routine basis, and we're going to audit our topic pages. Are there ways that we could consolidate certain pages to help, again, make sure that we're not spread too thin and allow, like if, for example, our people team are great users of the site and are key partners to us to make sure that we're bringing policy and other benefits related information to our employees. Our people team have about 12 or 13 topic pages, which is a lot, right? And so not every one of those pages is being visited. So we're undergoing an audit to make sure are there ways that we can consolidate that.
Smart.
Our technology team has a similar, I would say, challenge. Again, it's not a problem. It's great to have all these resources and information out there, but we're constantly using that data to make sure that we're making more efficiencies on the site and, again, making it more useful to our users.
Love hearing how you're listening to what they are using, what they do need, and that's really driving how you're growing, what you might sunset in the future and what you might focus more on. That is fantastic. And I found myself thinking this, so I know where you're growing, and my next question is going to be about where you're going next. But first, I'm always curious to I'm just going to back you up to the beginning and see when you are embarking on, launching or relaunching an intranet or transforming your communications and your platform. We all know that it takes a lot of buy-in from all of your stakeholders across your organization. Go back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about how you got the support from those champions that you needed to transform the way you were doing your communications.
I'm happy to go first.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I actually was not part of the team that was working on our intranet transformation. I've since moved to the team after the installation, but I will tell you, seeing the work that our team did, it took a while to get our new intranet ready for launch. But it was a lot of work, but it was a much needed resource. I think we had done employee surveys a couple times a year, trying to understand what systems could be improved. And I think through a lot of employee feedback, it really signaled to our leadership that we needed to modernize our intranet. And what I also mentioned kind of briefly in my last comment was around the partners that we have. So our global technology team and our people team, which is our HR team at NASDAQ, they are our key kind of stakeholders in making sure that our intranet is successful. And so I'm aware that there was a sort of substantial audit that went into place to make sure that we were finding the best modern intranet partner to bring those kind of resources to life. Like I mentioned, a modern internet interface, a mobile app option. Those were key kind of things for us on our journey. And so, but it took, I think, not multiple attempts, but it was certainly, fairly detailed conversations with a lot of stakeholders. But having our technology and people partners with us to present the opportunities to our leadership team led to our eventual adoption of the Firstup platform, which we're really happy about.
That's great. So partners, data are key. Yep. Tamara, how about you? How did you go about this journey? You had a huge transformation that you're still building on. What did it look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, I started in 2018, really email was our kind of only communication form. And in fall of 2019, I had started just investigating. Like we said, we needed something better. We needed something different. So I'd already started to kind of put it out there that, hey, I want to look into this. And then again, COVID was really the catalyst. And I will say, and maybe I'm lucky, but I had a very supportive, CEO and executive leadership team who recognized that there was also this need and that this was an investment that we were going to make for the organization. And now, as I stated, we're kind of continuing to evolve. So again, there's the recognition that there is this continual needed investment, that we need this for our employees, and we need to build this modern intranet where they can really truly have the information and resources to do their job. So I've had great buy-in and support, and I know that that's truly needed to have something like this and to really make it work and bring it to life the way you want. So I've not really had much pushback at all. It was certainly, again, kind of just doing the vetting and taking a look to see what were the different companies out there that were doing this, what was going to be the one that truly best met our needs, and not just now, but for where we wanted to go. And I think that was a big piece of it. And I will say something, just for you all, that we've really, you guys continue to have new updates and you yourselves continue to evolve. So I think that partnership really works for us as we continue to look for new ways to, communicate, to target, to look for ways to bring that modernization to our organization as well. So that's been a great support for us as we look to go forward and continue to evolve with our solution.
Love to hear that, because yes, that is definitely where our eyes are on what's coming next and how can we continue to modernize and make this easier and better for your employees. And that's where I'm going to land on our last question. Is we've heard a little bit, especially Tamara, about where you're going next. So I will say, for this forward-looking last question that I have for you before we get into our audience questions, when I ask what's next, what are your big ideas? What's on your wish list? Or what are you thinking of, big picture, long-term? How would this look if you could have it look the way that you want it to? And Tamara, I'll start with you for Sheppard Pratt Pulse, and then we'll go to Will.
Yeah, it really is about centralizing for us because, again, that's not something that we really had. So it is bringing everything together. It's not just the communication platform and channel, but it's the tools, it's the resources. It's being able to meet the needs of our employee and really having that employee, centric solution for them. It is something that that needs to be able to evolve and meet their needs because our workforce is constantly changing. So we need to be able to listen to them and understand, where they are and how we can continue to map out new functionality that meets that and have a platform that does that as well. Something that obviously Will was talking about for us is mobile too. So we've not had a great mobile adoption. So for us, again, we're a deskless remote workforce. We do have folks that are not going to be at their desk or even checking their email on a regular basis. So the idea of mobile is, very attractive. We just have to kind of figure out how to get our workforce interested in it and to adopt. But as we are continuing to develop our more full intranet solution, we are looking to relaunch mobile with a custom app. And again, as we have this enhanced functionality and information and resources for them, we're hopeful that this will become a much more utilized resource. So I do see mobile as more of a go forward for us and as part of our next steps as we think about the evolution of our intranet solution.
I like hearing that because also before I jump to Will, I have to say I had a question from the audience queued up. And she was asking just that, do you have any tips? You say this is what you're focusing on, and it sounds like you've got some plans. You're customizing the mobile app. You're doing some things, because her question was, do you have any tips or any insight on how you can increase adoption? She too has a challenge with her frontline employees not yet wanting to or seeing the value in downloading an app to their mobile devices.
Yeah, I will say again, we launched in COVID, so there was so much happening. In hindsight, there was a lot of things I probably would have done differently. As a result, we couldn't get out there with our workforce to show the benefits, to show people how to do it, the why. So I think there's more opportunity now with us having a little bit more of that physical presence opportunity that we didn't get to the first go around. Will mentioned it is something that is part of a lot of his workforce that's already on their phones. We have about half of our workforce that have, issued phones. So just better partnership with our IT team to make sure, again, that is on their phones. Something for us, we're kind of redoing our welcome day and new employee orientation. So we're going to have a much greater focus on our platform. Literally a QR code for them to scan and download it right there. So trying to capture people on the first day when they're very engaged with us. So that's something that's going to start soon. So our hope is that we can see an increased adoption because we're going to get them on that first day where we hadn't really done that before. So for me, it's better partnership with our IT team to make sure it is on all the phones that it can be on. And then certainly capitalizing on that new employee workforce in hopes of trying to get them when they're engaged and hungry for information.
That's the best. I think that's probably my best practice tip, is to get them during orientation and just say, this is where you need to go for all the information. So absolutely love that. All right. So Will, give us your big picture. What comes next? What's on your wish list for NASDAQ Insider?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, Kyla. I think I never always saw myself as like a UX leader, but I feel like I'm quickly becoming one now that I run internal communications. And so the user experience for our intranet is what I think about every single day. And that's like a new thing for me, right? Because before it was about the substance of the content. But now it's about how are my colleagues engaging with this content? We're a global company. Sometimes our operations are a little bit more US centric with our time zones and that kind of thing. So I'm always constantly thinking about how am I delivering this news and information so that it's most relevant to every single person at the company. So I would summarize it by saying my wish list is NASDAQ Insider is always the first and last destination outside of email for our employees every single workday. I want them to, whether it's through the app or on the homepage, I want them to be coming to the site. And so that's what's driving me kind of forward into next year. But I will also tell you, I think some of the newer features that are coming, knowledge hubs, that's definitely something that we're looking at for 2025. Continuing to grow our mobile use, but then also user-generated content. As we've acquired companies over the last couple of years, when we learned best practices from them, a lot of it is like, hey, in our existing system, we have a lot of user-generated content. It's like a social media feed. And so
we're wanting to make sure that our new colleagues understand that all of what we're offering right now through Insider has those capabilities. And so we're doing a lot more focused effort on user-generated content, but also content that highlights not just executive leadership, but all employees. So there are a couple of things that we're doing right now. We've deployed something called Photo Booth, which is a sort of a more focused opportunity for our colleagues to be using their mobile phones or otherwise to be capturing images from around NASDAQ on the go and adding them to our Insider page. Another one is a series that we're doing in our all hands meetings called How We Did It, which is showcasing our sales leaders or emerging sales leaders sharing best practices on how they are enhancing client experience and client engagement. So by bringing these kind of user-generated stories to our platform, we're really trying to grow adoption so that people are seeing their peers, they're able to engage with that content, but that it also kind of drives up, I would say, almost like competition. I want to be in that. I want to be featured in this. One of our biggest features on our platform is our pick of the week. It's a submitted photo from employees around the company, from their travels, from their time off, from their business trips. It creates a beautiful image on our website, and it's honestly it's probably the top destination outside of our employee directory on our intranet. So just that's kind of UX wish list for me. I want to make sure it's like the best experience for all of my colleagues, whether it's content that they're posting themselves or the most useful information. So yeah.
Love
Not
that.
necessarily innovative, but definitely a wish list.
But it is. And I mean, you've really hit on another one of our most successful best practices, and that is feature your employees, feature those authentic interactions and the pictures and what their day looks like. I'm a huge proponent for anyone who's on this call who's spoken with me for employee generated content. And I did see some of the heart emojis start flying whenever you did mention it. So excellent direction that you're taking there. Love it. And I think we are getting on to close to the end. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and take your Q&A. Just in case I don't get to it, I'm going to tell you what's next from Firstup. Wanted to do a quick plug. We do have new research coming in from Josh Burson. He is the renowned global HR industry analyst. When he comes out with new research, everybody listens. These are the things that you'll want to pull into your presentations to help make your cases for employee engagement. He always has great things to share. Wanted to let you all know that is coming soon from Firstup in the next month or two. But now let's go ahead and get into more of that audience Q&A, and this will take us to the end. We have about 10 minutes, so let's fill in with some of these. There have been questions coming in, and I would love to get to some more. Let's see. Here's a question. How important is having access to the intranet while off of the company network? How important has this been for your organization? So I think this is an access question, giving people access who didn't have it before. Is that something that you did that was new with your new platform? Either one of you could jump in.
Yeah, I will say again, we had 4 separate before as part of our disparate organization. But if you weren't on the network with kind of one of the old versions, you could not access. So that is something now that is not the same. We have SSO. So again, as long as you're kind of on your computer, you can log in. The mobile app obviously also makes that much more available. Again, for us, we are looking to kind of create the backend SharePoint solution to house a lot more of the policies and procedures and other, kind of more tactical documentation, so that again, people who are not on a network can easily access that information as well, and making sure that people do have that kind of quick connect over the resources and information that they need. So that's a kind of continual thing for us, but certainly, previously that access wasn't there for people, and that's frustrating again when they're trying to find something, download it, they can't. So.
Agree. Let me look. I like this question as well. This comes from Michelle. What advice would you give both company-wide and team-specific information being housed together? She says a big pain point that she's dealing with is employees getting to company resources through all of that noise of other, specifics that they're looking for. So how do you balance that mix of the broad enterprise info and maybe that kind of day-to-day info that they need so that they can still navigate?
I can tackle that one. I think
Okay.
what we're really using our newsletters to employees to help drive call to actions to the intranet.
That's
So
great.
we
Newsletter.
we do two newsletters a week. One is a week ahead, one is a week in review. And then our people team also do a monthly newsletter that includes different information. So we're always trying to drive our users to specific topic pages. So on our main kind of homepage, we always try to have a mix and a balance between what I would call business related content and our people related content. So our policy information, new features, that kind of thing, versus what's happening around the company. And then at the more local or division level, it's really utilizing the topic pages that have been designed for each one of those. That was another unlock for us moving to Firstup. Each office location has a topic page. And so it's working with that specific location leader and getting a few other people at the local level to be trained on how to use the system to post that content. It allows those hyper-focused users, hyper-local users to then drive content to their respective team or office, so that it then would create better user habits for our site. So I know that if I'm going to get company information over here and on the navigation bar, and then if I go a couple clicks deeper, I get to my specific team or office page. So that's kind of one way that we're approaching this. But I wouldn't say that there's like a single way to do it for each organization. It has to be more of a bespoke approach.
I like that approach to organization though. And I like how you're using then the newsletters to kind of go out, reach people and bring them back in. So you are doing that outreach with that information that's connected within the newsletter. So that's great. All right. Well, we're in our final minutes, so I'm actually going to see if Tamara, do you want to tackle that question as well? And we'll end there. Before you answer, I will say there have been some more questions come in through the Q&A, and just wanted to let everyone know that our staff will pick those up and answer those directly. So we are committed to getting you answers for anyone who did submit a question that wasn't answered here live, but wanted to finish up with Tamara. What are you doing to what's your content strategy in organizing that enterprise information versus the local?
Yeah. So again, definitely company-wide information. We were trying to more strategically push that out through emails. When I first started, everything was email, everything. So it became a lot of white noise. So by having the platform now where we're able to kind of distinguish that content, we're using email really as that more action-oriented information, or our more high-level leadership messaging. So that again, we're really trying to pull back on the emails and then drive people to our platform to be able to kind of get that more everyday stuff. A little different than what Will is doing and what we're looking right now, and what we're trying to figure out from a strategy standpoint is with our evolution with our intranet is we are going to have those kind of more, I would say, hub department type pages and resources. But again, that information is really meant to be the employee facing information. So stuff that all employees need to know. It's not meant to actually be the more like department kind of team stuff where they were going to interact and work together on documentation. So we're still going to keep that as their own teams, but we want them to surface up from the organization-wide standpoint, the information that all employees need to know that's HR related or IT related. And that's the strategy we're working on now. And I saw a couple of questions asking about SharePoint, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be working off SharePoint, and we have a consultant that we're working to partner with and doing the back-end SharePoint solution. And then, for us, our Firstup and what we call Pulse will be the front end. And yes, the integrated search will be there so that someone can come into Pulse, type what they're looking for, and then go into the back end of SharePoint in order to be able to find those, again, kind of more hub specific pages. But all of that information will still be the kind of employee centric information, and that specific team information that's really more about them is going to still live like on a Microsoft Teams site or something for them.
I love that. That's an excellent, I see questions coming in about that too, is, how do all of these systems connect? And they do, so that you are surfacing up, the searching across different platforms and some of the notifications and some of the apps, you mentioned Teams. So I did see a couple of Microsoft questions. So I did want to let people know that, yes, when we talk about your intranet can't be the only thing, this is what we're talking about. We know you have maybe Teams or Viva or something else, or SharePoint, where you are standing up kind of your document repository. And all of those things can be connected. And that's what we're really talking about, is making that strategy a whole ecosystem and maybe not just one site that is everything to everyone. Well, excellent discussion. I have to thank you both so much, Will and Tamara. You gave such excellent examples, answered so many of our questions. So it was wonderful to have you here today. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you, everyone, for coming and spending the hour with us. We're going to go ahead and conclude, and we will see you on the next webinar very soon.